Hello out there. Welcome to our podcast today. This is Coach Eric Johnson, the brand.
And this is Coach Aaron Thigpen, the source. EJ, got a good topic today. One that seems to just be a burning question. And it's something I'm struggling with constantly. And every time I think I've gotten past it, someone asks me again and I start second thinking it. So I guess I'm gonna have a different opinion on any given day. So we might be doing this podcast again and I might completely contradict myself.
Right.
But for today's topic, how young is too young?
Wow. Yeah. That's a big thing right now. I mean, I'm hitting that. I'm getting that same kind of mindset you have, and I'm second guessing myself. And man, I don't know, man. I'm right with you on this one, man, because I have changed my tune a little bit. To be honest with you, a little bit. I think when it comes to training athletes, I got people call me. I got a 5-6-year-old son. Can we get some work in? I'm like, 5 or 6? Really? No, are you pressing your kid too much, or I'll get the seventh or eighth, because I always believe this, Aaron. Okay. This has been my mindset all these years.
Mm-hmm.
If they're 9.5, I'm ready to teach them.
Right.
Because I think there's a cognitive development that happens with a 9.5 or 10-year-old kid that can actually comprehend and repeat information.
Right.
If I'm being clear in how I am presenting the information and they can understand it and they can handle it, they can do it, right? But I've had some 8-year-olds that can take this information, decipher and go, yeah, I'll do it. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And what I've been seeing out there, and this applies to my baseball club teams, is that the training at that age is sketchy at best. Meaning, and this is not to, be detrimental to anybody or say anything bad about anything, but when you're training an 8, 9, 10-year-old kid, those are some formative years to where what you teach them has to be taught correctly if they want to function kind of right. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, Aaron, but there has to be some sort of fundamental base that's being taught. And I'm finding that when kids get in our program at 12 and they don't know how to catch and throw, or they don't know how to swing the bat, or they don't know how to move their feet correctly in the batter's box, or they don't know how to track a pop fly because they haven't been taught properly. And then that becomes a problem because that's a year. I'm sorry to say this, but I know this. That's a year of training, of just trying to train fundamentals of the year 12 and 13. And that puts them behind a little bit if we're going on a trajectory to get to high school and playing the big diamond. I'm sorry. It really is. So it goes back to our subject. How young is too young?
This question was posed to me in a recent podcast with Rich Balswick. Asked me, got me thinking about it again. And I thought I had kind of come to my conclusion on it, but I just thought it'd be a good topic for us to at least express on its own. Now, we do have a related topic, podcast to this topic, and it's when to start strength resistance training. And you guys should look into that because I know that's a question that is always asked by parents. Hey, when should my kids start weight training, lifting weights? But we're actually moving the needle back further and now just saying, when should our kids start training, period? And we could probably even do one, when should our kids start competing? Because I think that also is an aspect of this that really needs to be addressed. So put that in the notes, EJ.
Gotcha, man. I like that one, man. That one right there hits home for me. So I'm with you on that one.
But I mean, all of this I call kind of what I call the Tiger Woods effect. People kind of see, hey, here's this kid who started with his dad at, I don't know, whatever it was, 3 or 4 years old.
Yep.
And now he's become this great golfer. And I just think that people see that and they want to follow that recipe. And I think the answer to all of this is it's more individual specific than there is one canned answer for every kid. And you kind of alluded to that, where, hey, you may have an 8-year-old who comes in and understands everything and has got the proper motor skills and can move on. And then you have another 8-year-old that doesn't. And
Right.
so I think you have to, as a parent, you have to take all of that into account. And when I'm assessing a kid, generally I don't take kids under 8 years old. And even
Right.
my 8-year-olds, I have what I call an intro session where I kind of evaluate them. And I'm evaluating them on a couple of things. I'm evaluating them on their physical capabilities. And I'm not talking about athletic capabilities. I'm talking about
Right.
physical capabilities, those basic movement skills that tell me, okay, this kid can handle some organized training regimens.
Okay.
And then I'm also looking at the coachability factor.
Mm.
Are these kids able to pay attention, be focused? Can they grasp the concepts that we're talking about? So
Right.
I kind of do that. And even after that, if I accept a kid, I take them through a ramp up period.
Mm.
And then we make a decision on whether or not we continue to move forward. So that's kind of how I'm handling it.
Mm-hmm.
Because some kids may need a longer ramp up period, some kids may need a shorter, some kids I might just say, hey, look, you know what, come back next year.
Right.
Let them have another year of development, another year of maturity, that sort of thing. Because you've got to look at a couple of different items. Kids are different in these areas. Even though you may have the chronological age, which is what everyone kind of looks at, there's actually different things you should be focusing on. And one is the physical development age. And you've got children who, you can have an 8-year-old that's, I don't know, 80 pounds, and you can have
Right.
an 8-year-old that's, 60 or 45 pounds.
Right.
And so you've got to look at where they are developmentally, physically, before you can decide what's appropriate. And you talked about going back to the basics, and I agree with that. I think you need to make sure athletes have basic motor skills before you ever worry about, 1, sports, 2, competing.
Mm.
If your kid, is stumbling a lot, they can't balance, they're on one leg, they have a hard time hopping and jumping and landing, they don't have the coordination to kind of throw fluidly, those are
Yeah.
signs that you need to work on, because most sports are run, jump, throw.
They are.
So those are just some of the 3 basic things that you want to be able to assess and say, okay, how well does my kid do this? And if they need help or need remedial help, then let's get them that remedial help. But let's not necessarily put them in training
For competition.
or competition.
Yeah.
Again, the other thing I talked about is their coachability age.
Mm.
At different ages, athletes are able to, again, focus, pay attention, follow directions, communicate, not just one way, but 2 ways,
Mm-hmm.
and grasp and apply the concepts that a coach or trainer is trying to teach them. And that's a pretty hard hurdle at 5 and 6 years old.
Yeah. It's
And
very.
and at that age, if you are going to, even at 8 years old, at that age, if you are going to go down this road, really make sure that you're putting your athlete with a coach that has very good communication skills, because the onus is going to be on the coach to be able to paint the picture for that athlete to understand what they're trying to get them to do. So in my experience, you're probably going to need a pretty experienced coach that's going to be able to do that, who's going to understand how athletes learn and how what are all the different ways to communicate what they're trying to teach the athlete. whether it's kinesthetically by taking the arm and moving it and showing them that's how, whether it's verbal, whether it's visual, whatever the case may be, they're going to need to be able to use all of those skills to help a variety of different kids. And so I think those are two big areas that a parent should look at in terms of what you may want to do with your kid. Is always get them outside playing. Yes. Or take them to a place, that's safe for them to play. Yeah. Take them to these bounce houses, not bounce houses, but the trampoline places, the parkour places where they kind of can run, jump, hang, swing, and explore a wide repertoire of movements for their body. Doing something like that for, 30 minutes twice a week or 3 times a week is a great way to segue your kids into sports, or at least complement their beginning aspects of sport. The woman I talked to earlier this week had a young lady, an athlete that was 6, and we talked about martial arts, because martial arts, it's going to help with not only some of the physical aspects of balance and kicking and striking and those sorts of things, rolling and tumbling also can be a part of martial arts. But there's a level of structure and discipline that I like in martial arts that now, acclimates them to that type of environment, which makes your kid a lot more coachable. And coaching and training is about the transfer of information. It's not really just about the activity. And you need a kid who can listen and learn more so than a kid who's athletic, because athleticism starts to come. That can be worked on. But if your kid can't listen, they can't focus, they can't pay attention, you're not going to go anywhere. So something like that. Dance is always something I always talk to parents about. Gymnastics is another sport. There's certain things in those sports that require a certain level of body awareness, motor control, but also discipline, because those sports require that they cross the T's and dot the I's, versus some other sports where you can kind of get away, like maybe football or basketball, where you're maybe not as precise and you can still have some success. Yeah. Well, it creates a different mindset in the terms of how an athlete thinks about training and receives training when you're doing those sorts of disciplines. And there may be others out there, as well, but those are generally the ones that come to mind for me.
Boy, you hit on a lot of things, man. It took me to so many places. One, I was thinking when you said martial arts and you were thinking dance and gymnastics, and you said the word discipline. It teaches those sports teach discipline. They also teach the organization, something that you say all the time, the organization of the body, organizing the body. When you're doing outside play, going to those jungle gyms or jump places, and you're going to martial arts, and you're doing tumbling, and you're doing all kinds of stuff, you learn how to organize your body and get balanced, and how to kind of like, I got to move this way to get back on balance and stuff like that. And that goes so far. And it led me to this word, accountability. The athlete has accountability when they're doing those things, and it puts them in a mindset, and it's an early mindset before they even get into some serious training. And I call it the successful athlete mindset. And I think that's so important, that those early developmental years can help athletes create this mindset that I've seen so many successful athletes that you and I have trained or better than that, you and I have competed against. And that's the one thing to me that they have. They have this organization of their body. They have this discipline. They have the accountability. They have this mindset. And when you start your young athlete out in that kind of environment, they're going to be successful in life, let alone the sport. And that's just good parenting, Aaron, to be quite honest with you. And knowing your young person that you're trying to expose to athletics, that's crucial to me because I see so many parents just throw their kids into sports and they're not prepared to go do it.
Right.
They got to go do something. I just got to get rid of them. I got to get them out of the house. Get them out of the house doesn't mean taking them down and signing them up for every sport. I mean, getting out of the house could be going, hey, we're going to go out and play on ourselves. We're going to go shoot baskets ourselves. We're going to go out and ride bikes. We're going to go out and do all these other things. We're going to skateboard. We're going to do all this stuff that you and I did that had nothing to do with the sport that we played or we competed in, and it brought me to competition, exposing the young athletes to competition too early. And that's another podcast, like we said. But if it leads to, if you're too young, what age is the right age, and it brought on a lot of different feelings and thoughts I had about athletes and when they should be training, what they should be doing prior to training, and some of these activities. I think all the points you made are just tremendous and a testament to how professional you are and understanding about what these athletes that you see from 6 all the way up to your professional athletes, that you have the experience that people need to really understand. If you're out there listening, listen to what this man has said, because I see this constantly on a regular basis, 5-6 days a week.
Yeah. A word that keeps kind of flashing in my head like a neon sign is like, it's just, if you want longevity in sports, the one thing that it should always be is fun. If you ask most athletes, and I'm a master's track athlete, and if you ask most athletes who are still competing in sports, you're like, oh, why the hell are you competing? You're almost 60 years old, 70 years old. They'll say one thing: it's fun. And if it starts out as fun, it can end as fun. And that's what sustains you through all of those years. Yeah, I happen to be highly competitive, but that's my competitive outlet, but it's also fun for me. Yeah. And I think if you start it in an environment of play, it's now fun. Yeah. Then you can slowly layer on training. Then you can slowly layer on competition. And now they have a way to modulate how far they really want to go with this. No, I just want to do this recreationally. I only want to play tennis recreationally. I don't want to compete at it, but they're now still involved in it. And it creates a healthy lifestyle. So now tennis is fun, and they may play it till they're, again, 50, 60 years old. So I think introducing it through a form of play creates that mentality that, hey, this is fun. It creates more memories and all those things that kind of innately push us towards something, because we're not always going to get a medal for doing something. We're not always going to get a trophy for doing something. And rarely, a very small percentage make any money at playing a sport. So what's that why that keeps you going? And what's that intrinsic value that it has to you as a person and its space in your life? And I think if you start out looking at it that way and molding your kid and your athlete that way, they're going to be better off, and they're going to end up wherever they're going to end up. But trying to turn everyone into the next Tiger Woods or whatever, protege, golf, tennis, you see that a lot, in tennis, or, soccer protege, you see that now. I don't know if that's well served, because I see a lot of kids who are actually burnt out by the time they're 16, 17. and they don't want anything to do with the sport, which is kind of sad because, if you've got some aptitude and you've got some love for something, why not make it a lifelong activity?
Right.
So, anyway.
Hey, well said today, Aaron. Well said, and thanks for listening today to our podcast, The Brand and the Source. This is Coach EJ, The Brand.
And this is Coach Aaron, again, asking you guys to hit that like button, send us comments, questions. Love to hear from you. And we'll see you on the next one.